It is intuitive to think that people who endure racial discrimination will have worse health, but I tell you, it was surprising to learn that it would have such an effect on memory.
Well, there are two new research studies by the Alzheimer's Association now out that point to a connection between racism and decreased memory, especially among black adults. Now, the study looked at exposure, at least one of them, to interpersonal institutional racism, while the second study looked at discrimination throughout one's life, and both were associated with significant memory loss.
The changes in the brain that lead to memory loss and eventually dementia and Alzheimer's disease often come from proteins and plaques that interfere with the brain's ability to communicate. But new research revealed at the Alzheimer's Association's international conference this week point toward exposure to racism as an associated link.
Is this surprising to you?
No, not at all.
Dr. Shekinah Fashaw-Walters studies the impacts of racism on healthcare at the University of Minnesota's School of Public Health.
What we see is that racism has a weathering effect on the body. And this can start at earlier ages and go later into life. And so that connection is created even here in these studies that we see about Alzheimer's disease.
The first study out of the University of California, Davis looked at 445 participants exposed to major incidents of discrimination. The average age was 92. The class of mostly non-white participants showed significantly worse semantic memory than the mostly white class. It led researchers to conclude experiences of discrimination have an indelible association with cognitive health. The second study out of Columbia University examined 942 people of different races and their exposure to daily interpersonal racism. It found multi-level racism related to cognition and may be a substantial driver of racial ethnic disparities in cognitive health. Dr. Fashaw-Walters believes some of this may be driven by race-neutral health policies that do not intentionally focus on vulnerable communities.
So if policies were created in a way that incentivize caring for more vulnerable populations, those are the sorts of policies that I would consider more race conscious.
These new findings come on the heels of the Alzheimer's Association's own research last fall showing across ethnic groups, people believe they will be treated differently in Alzheimer's care because of their race, color, or ethnicity, as high as 36% among blacks. Dr. Carl Hill is the Alzheimer's Association's chief diversity officer.
So much work to do to get information to communities, but also to provide training around cultural competence and humility to healthcare providers when delivering care to African Americans, Hispanic, Latinos, and all communities.
But Dr. Shekinah Fashaw-Walters at the U of M also says we need to perhaps rethink the way we provide insurance in addition to health care for adults of color. This, she says, could also have an impact on memory loss and cognition over the course of one's life.